deserve to have the best physical, mental, spiritual, Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. I've been away for like a month, I think, maybe 3 weeks at least, because I was in Vietnam, and so I do apologize for that. But here I am. We're back on stage and ready to go, and I'm going to talk a little bit about today on my trip to Vietnam, of course, and just the different culture and just kind of the different things I experienced, and more so with regards to the fact that I didn't work out at all. Although we walked miles and miles and miles in probably 6 or 7 different cities. We traveled the entire country, did a lot of fun things, and we walked a lot. And so I call that exercise. I don't really typically call walking exercise. Again, I'm not discounting walking, but because walking is very good for you and good for, when I had my back issues early on in my NFL career and actually later on in my NFL career, one of the things that I did on days that my back was hurting is I'd take long walks and kind of get the blood flowing, and it kind of warmed up my back real well. So, but definitely as far as exercise, that was as much as I did, but we did walk a lot. And then the food, of course, I definitely want to talk a lot about the food and the differences between the countries and what kind of emphasis they put in their food and so forth. But also going to share a little bit about some, I got a new with kicking. I've got, Vihan Rocketfoot was on. Vihan Vanderreet is his name, goes by Rocketfoot. I had him on many episodes ago to talk about kicking. He's one of my best pro form kicking guys. He's in South Africa, but he just came out with a book that I'm going to talk a little bit about. I think it's incredible, the stuff that he's learned from me and I've learned from him. The dude's a really smart guy. He's throwing out terminology I've never really considered or heard of before. So I want to give him props for that. But he came out with a book and kind of wants to include me in the sales of it, which I think is a cool thing, because a lot of everything that I've taught him, of course, is stuff that he's put down in the book and more things that he's learned on his own. But talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit about 3 International, which is actually in Vietnam. Ran into a couple people actually from the reason I was there. I'll get into that later, but definitely want to share a little bit about my experiences with 3 International in Vietnam and tell you why that's significant. But without further ado, I want a little short clip from our sponsor. And when we get back, we'll talk about all the things I just mentioned.
At 3, we want to give you the true health benefits that you're paying for, something you can feel and see a difference quickly. Each product is packed with powerful plant-based nutrients that are combined through a proprietary curation process and then infused with innovative cellular absorption technologies to ensure the nutrients absorb into the cells for maximum wellness. The quality and effectiveness of our life-changing products is evident by their approval to be included in the well-known Prescriber's Digital Reference, or PDR. PDR has been a valuable resource to the medical doctors and providers in the healthcare community for decades. Our products are GMO-free, clinically studied, and third-party tested, all designed to support health and proactive wellness for everyone.
So welcome back. And speaking of 3 International, which is the clip you just saw, of course, the sponsor for this podcast, but that was the company, the proactive wellness company that I'm involved with. We're also in 14 other countries, okay? Vietnam being one of them, of course. And I, ran into some people that were a part of 3 just kind of sporadically, but also with regards to the reason I was really there. It's kind of twofold. The initiation or the original reason I was there was that I earned an incentive trip through 3 International because they're in the country, and this incentive trip we've had like 3 now so far. I've earned all 3 of them so far in the company, and this one we had an option to take either Cabo, Mexico, or Vietnam. There was a reason why I chose Vietnam. My girlfriend, Lan O'Donnell, is Vietnamese, and she and her family escaped the country of Vietnam when she was only 4 years old. And that was many years ago, of course. And she has never been back until now. Now, Lan, I met her in Tulum, Mexico, in another 3 event. It was another incentive trip that I earned as well, and she earned as well. But that's where I actually met Lan. And when we were, the company announced the new, incentive trip. This was months ago, of course, and Vietnam was one of the options. I, talked to her about it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, if I get this, I'm definitely going to go. I'm definitely going to work for it to earn it to go to Vietnam." And the actual trip itself, was kind of because we have a big presence in the company over there in the APAC area. So a lot of the Asian countries over there, we are actually involved in. And so that was kind of the catch, is like this, we're going to have this incentive trip and you get to choose between Kabul or Vietnam, but they're just putting the trip in Vietnam for the APAC region and the people that live in that area. And typically the people that around the United States and Canada would go to Kabul. Well, we chose to go to Vietnam. But the problem was, of course, it's a 4-day trip, right? So it was a beautiful trip, awesome. We had a lot of fun. And again, a lot of the 3 people that were there that earned that trip as well, a lot of them were Vietnamese or Asian from all the Asian areas over there. So we were kind of there was a handful of people from the North America area that had gone to Vietnam, of course, for this trip. But again, it's a long trip. It's 24 hours or so, 26 hours to get there, something like that. It was a very, very long flight. So of course you don't want to spend just a few days there, 4 or 5 days there and have to come back. So I guess, of course, with Lan and having her family from there and her actually being born there, she still has family there. And so we made a big trip out of it. So we were literally gone for 20 days. That's why I've been MIA for the last 20 days. But my experience there was really absolutely incredible. Just learning a little bit about their culture, actually a lot about their culture, the religions, and just the Buddhas and everything about what they kind of represent. The history. We've been into some of the Capitol buildings and kind of saw some of the things where they were going through wars and like the information rooms, and they had everything was kind of untouched. They kind of had things in there. There was bunkers that were there in this specific room. There was like a helicopter pad in this building on the building. Really cool stuff. Saw like the Golden Bridge with the big hands on it. That's something that maybe you've seen in the past. And through experiences on watching like the History Channel or just anything on YouTube that talks about Vietnam and where to go. And there's a city with the train that kind of goes through the train street area of Hoi An. That was super cool. Again, there was a lot of really cool things about the country, but looking at this whole process of going on long vacations and what am I going to do with my nutrition and my health and my fitness and all that? Well, I told you already that I didn't work out at all other than walking. So I take a break. People say, "Oh, it must have been rough for you to not work out." I'm like, not really. I mean, I've put my time in working out. Probably 3 or 4 or 5 times a week if I can. And I want, sometimes you need a break. But we did a lot of walking. So I did some things, but my point is that I did lose a little muscle mass. I did gain a little fat mass, we'll say, but I didn't gain any weight. And I can promise you, especially with Lan, my girlfriend, being Vietnamese, she loves the Vietnamese food, clearly. And we ate a lot of Vietnamese food every single day and very often. So I put on the calories. I definitely consume the calories, but I have to tell you, the food over there is very natural. The eggs are different in a sense where they're free range, because I can tell the yolks are very dark yellow and they're creamier. They're a little bit more solid than the yolks here in the United States. And just the meat was just fresh, even the street food. And people like, "Oh, you ate street food?" Yes, it was actually very, very good. But some of the best food we had was from little street vendors. And we got some advice from the locals there, and we had different crews that took us around, and different crews that kind of showed us places to go, took us places. We did a Vespa cruise one day, kind of cruise around the city on Vespas, which was an incredible experience. Just different areas. Of course, they were tour guides essentially. So, getting advice from them, coming into different cities and they're pointing out different places to eat. You look at the place, you're like, that's what you recommend there? Yeah, absolutely. We'll go back to that place. Hey, the guy recommended it. Let's go. And it was amazing, amazing food. And again, there's a lot of soups, and they call it pho or pho. It's basically soup with a bunch of vegetables and some pork in it, and it's really really noodles. Of course, is really super good. Banh mi. I say that right. Banh mi is like a sub sandwich, but it's kind of different in a sense where there's some pork and chicken and things in there that and a little bit of different sauces and things like that kind of make it what it is. So I'm just here to tell you, of course, that when you go to different countries and you experience their foods, you kind of get a perspective of how natural they are. Now, we went to a market. Actually, the last day we were there, we ended up going to a market where it was like a grocery store. And you kind of look at some of the ingredients and look at this, like cereals they have, like Kellogg's, and they have some things there. But you look at the ingredients on the boxes, and you're like, this a lot less ingredients than what are in the United States. And that goes to tell you that, a lot of our foods here in the United States are processed, and it's very difficult to understand why all these chemicals and things that are in our foods that are making us unhealthy, essentially. And that's the God's honest truth. We all know that. Why, you look at the ingredients in the past, even in the United States, in ice cream, there was a couple of 2 or 3 or 4 ingredients in ice cream. Well, you look at the ice cream labels today in the United States, and there's like 20 different ingredients in ice cream. So there's a lot more things added to our processed foods, essentially. And again, I've said this before, I think our country and just kind of the mindset around food and the money that comes with food and getting us addicted to all this high sugar, high calorie sort of types of foods with a lot of different junk in it that are addictive too, by the way. I don't know if you know that or not, but they purposely put things in our foods to make them addictive. And again, clearly, I don't think that's right. I don't think anybody in their right mind would think that's right. But we are kind of bound to what we have access to. And, yes, there's some Whole Foods and things like that. But I'm seeing lately that even there's Whole Food stores, Aldi. I just saw something about Aldi that there's genetically modified ingredients in Aldi foods, And you think, oh, Aldi is a very natural, or at least it's a health food store. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you go to a grocery store and you see that there's a health food section, what does that make the rest of the store? It all should be healthy for us, but clearly it's not. We understand that. But my point is, going to different countries, eating a lot more, I think, than I know for a fact I eat more than I do here in the United States on a regular, daily basis. I discovered that, of course, you don't gain much weight, if any, and again, I was on the scale this morning, actually. I was just wanted to see. Yes, I feel a little bit more soft, we'll say, because I've lost a little muscle mass. I'm not working. I hadn't worked out in 20 days or so, or more, actually. And so I know I'm going to get a little soft and lose a little bit of muscle mass. And so I felt a little chubby. I'm like, okay, I'm going to see how much I weigh. And yeah, muscle weighs more than fat. I get that. I was exactly the same as when I left, 178. Didn't gain any weight. Yes, I lost muscle mass and gained a little bit of fat mass, I guess. But my point is that I definitely feel more comfortable, having gone to a different country and eating their foods and knowing that they're better. I could just taste a difference. There is a huge difference in the quality of the food in different countries. And and even working out, of course, talking about that. Everybody needs a break. You don't always have to work out. Yes, there's people that work out every single day, and that's a commitment, and they're really fit and really healthy. But in most people's lifestyles, it's not really very realistic. We want to do what we can, of course, and to do what we can to stay in shape and healthy and young and vibrant. And sometimes it does take a little toll on our bodies and especially with our busy schedules. But of course, losing the 3 weeks or whatever of working out, I'm totally fine with. I went to the gym this morning. I went to F45. I do those circuit trainings, and yeah, it was tough. I think tomorrow might be even worse. I'm doing boxing tomorrow, but I think like the day after, the first day after working out, the day after is usually the toughest, on me personally. And maybe the third day after I think is kind of tough too. And then, but you get over that hill, you get over that hump, and it's kind of smooth sailing from that point on. Now again, you pace yourself, and that's something I did today. I didn't jump on heavy weights. I was really, people looking at me like, wow, you should be doing, a lot more weight than that. Of course, they don't say that, and that's not what they said, or they kind of, I just kind of have this opinion maybe that people might think that. But anyway, I just know that I'm perfectly fine with having that time off, and I'm looking forward to getting back into the gym and the boxing club, and just getting kind of back in shape and getting back to my normal routine. So, shifting gears, I talked a little bit about Vihan Rocketfoot Vandereet, who was on a podcast with me maybe a month and a half ago or so, or whenever it was. But he's one of my best pro form kicking guys, and just to kind of shift gears, he's introduced a book. It's a handbook. And actually, matter of fact, it's called The Sacred Geometry for Flawless Goal Kicking Mechanics, an Ultimate Guide. He is a very smart, brilliant guy. And he's put my form and the things that I taught him into a different perspective for me, and kind of in a technical way. Like, he'll come up with like the golden ratio. He's like, you realize that this fits really tight with the golden ratio. And I'm like, Bihan, what's that? I didn't know what the golden ratio is. And so once I understood that, I got a great picture of what he was talking about. And since then, there's been a lot more sort of things that he's kind of taught me about my form. And I'm telling you, I read a little bit about the book today. He sent it to me, and I was blown away. I haven't even finished it yet, but it's incredibly knowledgeable as far as the information that's in it. But it gives a different perspective. And again, I don't want to talk too much about kicking, but with regards to what I've taught and the things and mechanics that I do and teach, it's a lot different than any other kicking coach out there for the most part. I mean, there's guys that kind of come up with similar stuff. Lately they have, like back in the day, they didn't, but it's getting better. But my point is that there is so many perfection type of things within this form that make it legit. That makes it's a no-brainer once you understand it. And I think this guide and this handbook will really open a lot of eyes to what the best way of kicking a football is. And that's what I've always said. I mean, there's always a best way of doing any skill in life. You can work really hard on the wrong things, and you'll get to maybe a certain level, but you'll never achieve your best. And that's what I've always told my kickers, like, you can go with these other coaches, but I promise you, for the most part, the things that they're going to teach you are things that you're going to want to do anyways. And so it's really not teaching you much anyways. And the things that you're going to want to do anyways are not the best way of doing, the skill. Because I lived it as a very average athlete, not real strong, not real, big or tall, or as far as an athlete, I was a very average athlete. And I was able to do things that were better than these guys that were twice my size, twice my athletic ability, twice my strength. Okay. So I know that the form is very good. I know it's effective, and I know I'm very prideful. I know it's the best way of kicking a football, just the physics of it. There's no other explanation other than I did it. And once you understand the physics of it, but that's my point is when you can have an athlete understand the best way of kicking a football and learn from guys who have done it, like myself. And Vihan, I always use his as an example, like Rocketfoot. I say, hey, have you guys ever heard of Rocketfoot on Instagram? Look him up. If you're talking about like the stuff that I'm teaching, you think it's kind of difficult, or you're really not sure. Here's a great example of somebody that spent a lot of time and effort into this. And he's an older guy. He's like 34 years old, something like that. Okay, so he's definitely somebody who's older that took on what I taught him, and he got addicted to it, and he actually he mastered it. He's definitely mastered the form. But I wanted to throw that out there and just kind of talk a little bit about Vihan and what he's done with this guide, and kind of get an idea of what's out there as far as coaching aspects, as far as kicking, the best ways, things like that. But getting back to working out, getting back into shape, and taking time off. I told you guys a long time ago that I've had my ups and downs with my workouts. And when I retire from football, the last thing I want to do is eat healthy and work out, because that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years of my life. And I was like, man, last thing I want to do is go to a gym. And of course I stopped working out. And of course, with my back, the way it was, I had 4 back surgeries during my NFL career. And all of a sudden my back starts to hurt, and I noticed I put on some weight, and I'm like, man, this hurts. And so anyways, going back into that concept of getting over the hump, that's where I think, back where I'm using this example now that I've taken 3 weeks off, I got to work my way back into the feeling of working out on a daily basis and getting consistent with it. It's going to be a challenge. And that's really my point, is after you take time off working out and eating healthy, when you want to get back into the routine and again, I'm not saying I didn't eat unhealthy, or I did eat unhealthy. I did not eat unhealthy because of the food I just mentioned over there in Vietnam was great. It was fabulous food. So that part is not, necessarily a subject I want to really refer to right now. But with regards to working out, I think it is. I think that I'm going to have to go through that little phase. Maybe it might take me a couple weeks or a week or so to kind of get over that hump, get over the hill. But again, it's the break that I wanted, the break that I needed, and it gives me an incentive, and it makes me feel comfortable and good about getting back into the gym again, getting back in the saddle, and getting back to that normal routine. And so I think when you think about and consider a commitment, whether it's your health and wellness, as far as your nutrition and your fitness and things like that, there is a certain commitment. Once you make that commitment, you want to stick to it and maintain that. Well, that's really where my job as an NFL kicker, I had to commit to. I had to, but that was a great lifestyle, and it was an awesome opportunity. It was a great time in my life. That I would never regret. There's no way I'm going to regret putting all the time and effort that I did to get to the NFL because of all the memories and things and experiences that I was able to have during that time. And I think that having those experiences and looking back now and being happy with the commitment that I made. I told you guys a long time, with regards to me, in high school, even in college, even guys, friends were like, "Oh, let's go out and hang out and party, whatever." And well, yeah, did I party a little bit? Sure, I did a little bit, but I had more of a commitment to my job, really, as a football player and my team, and I didn't want to sacrifice or have any issues come up with my position and what I was responsible for my position on the team. I wanted to make sure that I was not going to let the guys down, and so that's kind of where my commitment level started. And I use that in my daily lifestyle now. I'm once I make a commitment, I'm not going to say that I've always stuck with the commitment. Okay. I'm not perfect. I definitely have had commitments before that I have backed out of, or I failed. I understand that, and everybody should. We're all going to fail. There might be something we thought was going to be a great thing and then realize later on it's not. But when it comes to your life and your health and your wellness and your fitness and everything about it, and trying to stay youthful and energetic and just, take advantage of the short little minimal time we have on this earth, it's good to understand, and again, it's going to make you're going to have a committed attitude in order to stay on top of that stuff. And so it's a very important thing for me. And of course, going into this whole Zealous Wellness and 3 International and Premier Life and Premier Wellness, Premier, that other company that I work with as well. I think that it's something that I'm really trying to portray and make sure people understand that I want them to understand how important it is to maintain your health. And I've lived lives, during my time, experimenting with just not working out and eating poorly. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like the way I was. I was grumpy at times. I remember at times, one time actually, when I figured out that I was really overweight, I was huffing and puffing to tie my shoes. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. I can't believe I've gotten myself to this point where I'm huffing and puffing to tie my shoes. Part of it was my belly was so, it was a little bit big, whatever, trying to bend over and tie my shoes. I'm like huffing and puffing. This is not me. So, sometimes it takes those things to open up your eyes. Like, hey, I definitely don't want to be like this for the rest of my life, and so I've got to make some commitments and some change. But again, once you get over the hump and you make those commitments, and life becomes much better. You become more happy. You'll have more energy. You'll sleep better at night, and that's one thing that people who may be on the unhealthy side, they don't really realize how good life really can be. If they just make the commitment, start eating better, start doing some sort of physical fitness. It doesn't have to be going to the gym and throwing 220 pounds on the weight bench. You don't have to do that. That, anything that's movement that burns calories. Of course, you always talk about, the amount of calories you're consuming. You got to, on a daily basis. If you're not burning those calories, that they have nowhere else to go but to store in your body, which turns into fat. So for the most part, of course, if you're eating a lot of sugars and processed foods, you're the ones that really are struggling with their weight and their health. And so definitely it's a lifestyle that we all have to choose if we want to. But again, I'm here to tell you I experienced it firsthand. And even lifestyle. I understand that, it's a busy lifestyle. We all working a lot. And, there's a lot of people that actually do food prep. I do food prep as well. for those busy days. I'm just going to bring the food with me so I don't go to a fast food. I can honestly tell you, I don't even know when the last time I was at a fast food restaurant. I was even offered recently Chick-fil-A. As soon as we got back from Vietnam, I was over at my girlfriend Lance's house, and her daughter wanted to go get some Chick-fil-A, and she offered it to me, and I said no. So I'm okay, thanks. Politely said no. I just don't want the fast foods. I'd rather not. I'd rather not eat if it has to do with fast foods. And that's just me personally, because I just kind of have done some research and kind of know a little bit about what's in those foods. And again, they talk about those things that make it, food addicting, and that's not a good thing for us as Americans, is to be addicted to really poor food. And again, it's all about the mighty dollar. I think it's a very, very sad thing that we have such a stronghold on money, and money is very, very important to a lot of people. Yes, I understand it's good, but when it comes to doing things unethically for that dollar, for the many dollars that they get. Even the pharmaceutical industry. Yes, there's great pharmaceuticals out there that people will need, but there's not so great pharmaceuticals out there that have side effects that you need another pill for. And again, it's kind of a cycle, and it's a money generating cycle. So that's why I'm really, really involved in proactive wellness. I don't want to get to a position where I have to rely on any sort of pharmaceutical drug to keep me operable on a daily basis. There might come a time when I get into my 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever the case may be, that I would have to rely on some sort of pharmaceutical medication to get me through my day. But until then, I'm going to do whatever I can to stay as proactive and as healthy as I possibly can naturally. And again, trying to avoid the foods that are easy to access at their grocery stores. I'm going to try to find foods that are better for me in the long term, because my health is very important. I can promise you that your healthcare costs right now, if you are proactive and you're eating better and things like that, sometimes it can be a little expensive. I can promise you it's going to be a lot cheaper for you in the long run than it is if you're starting to eat a bunch of processed foods right now today. Because if you think about it, all these health issues that are coming about with people who are not working out, not very athletic or exercising, and the most important thing is eating poorly. When those kind of people in the long run, when the diseases that are kind of in us right now, they're just waiting to come out because of the foods we're eating. They're just, I believe that cancer's in everybody. It's just a matter of how acidic your body is because of the foods you consume. When you eat poorly, cancers come out really easily, right? So if you're taking care of yourself and eating good, your healthcare in the long term will be much cheaper than it will be if you choose otherwise. Okay, so understand eating healthy and being physical, having some fitness and moving and being healthy like that is better for you in the long run, clearly. And I look at my parents and their ages. My dad is 83 years old. He lives on a mountain and he's constantly climbing trails and cutting trees down. And I'm just like, man, that's impressive. I definitely want to be in his position when I get to that age as well. And so I'm working really hard to stay as young as possible and as youthful as possible and energetic and vibrant as possible and take advantage. Again, we have a smidge of time on this planet. Okay, we do. We all do. It's a very, very short time when you look at the reality of things. Okay. However long it's been, the earth has been around. You think about, after your time on earth, you're forever in existence with the Lord, with God, wherever that might be, as far as whatever you believe in. That's eternity, right? Okay, so right now, this time on earth, 100 years or less ish, whatever you want to throw the number out, is a very, very, very short window of time in your existence, however you want to believe that. Okay, so bottom line, take advantage of trips. Understand that you can go on these trips and take some time off, but get back into your physical fitness and your nutrition. Understand the foods are different in different countries. I think that that's a very important thing, that we all understand what we're eating here in the United States compared to other countries. I witnessed it firsthand. I've heard that about Australia as well. I've been there as well. In other countries, Germany, and been on cruises in Italy and things like that. And Italy, speaking of Italy, people talk about the bread. Yeah, I went to Italy and ate all the bread I wanted to. And I didn't gain a pound. See what I'm saying? That's a very true statement, and I haven't experienced that because I spent short time in Italy, basically on a cruise. But my point is that other countries have a lot better foods. They don't process their foods like we do here, and I really wish that we, as a society here in the United States, were able to have better food, have better options for us in the long term, because it is all about our health. And I hate to say this, but I think that there's no money in sick people. For the elites, the people who are gaining their monetary value from our sickness. There's a reason why the United States is the sickest country in the world. In my opinion, this has to do with the food and why what we're eating. And then the big pharma is a huge deal, right? And so they want to create things for us to survive after we become unhealthy because of the foods we have access to. Okay. So you got to be conscious of what you're eating, what you put in your body, because your body's your temple. I mean, without your health, you are nothing. That's the most important thing. Think about that. You definitely have to have health. If you don't have your health, you won't really exist. There's really not a very good purpose to serve on this earth if your health is not there. If you're a very unhealthy person and you're not doing anything, you're not contributing to yourself or your life or your family or anything, you understand where I'm going with that. It's just it's a tough thing for a lot of people to maintain their health, and I really wish it'd be a better way. So be proactive with your health. 3 Proactive Wellness is a great opportunity, great source to become healthier and maintain your health throughout your life. And so, with that said, thanks again for returning after my my MIA, my time away for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it was. I appreciate you guys as far as listening to me and my personal experiences. Again, I always emphasize the fact that I'm not an expert in many things at all. I might be an expert in kicking a football, but other than that, I'm one with an experience. I've just kind of lived and learned, and I want to share those experiences with you guys. So with that said, I hope you guys have an amazing Monday evening, Labor Day. Happy Labor Day, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to even mention that. So have a great rest of your Labor Day on Monday. And then we will see you next Monday at 5:30 again on Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. Take care.
Thank you for watching Zealous Wellness with Mike Hollis. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.